Good evening, everybody. How are you today? Very good. How's the temperature? Not too cold, not too hot. Today's temperature is a little hot. A lot of wind. Sticky. We try to our best, our body. Yeah. 아니, 사실 탐식을 듣는 사실 공부도 그렇지야. 되게 제대로 영역이 있는 사람이 좀 그런 거 그래서.
So we should set up our motivation with the thought that that we might achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings.
현재 탐식을 제대로 가진 사실 공부도 그래서 그래서.
So why is it that we want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings?
내가 그때 저를 봤어. 그때 내가 샘제 강화도 가르치는 거였어. 샘제 차상 나도 가르치는 거였어. 가르치.
So that was the question. The first question is why we want to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and the answer to this question is because of the great kindness that they have shown us.
네, 중도 때 걔네도 살아서 샘제 탐식도 가르치고 해서 걔네도 살아서 이게 accept this.
Yeah. So you guys understood? He said in English. Can you accept the answer? Because of their great kindness. That's why we should achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So this is generally a view held within Buddhism. So there are three varieties of sentient beings. So the ones who are near and dear, like our friends, our relatives. So our enemies, people who are against us.
Everybody's enemies? Okay.
And then people who we are indifferent to. So the friends, Ani Yeshe will be helping me today. The friends or the people who are near and dear to us is who we rely on when we have difficulties.
Like when we have difficult times, and it's to our close ones, like our friends and relatives, that we tell them, that we can tell them and confide and rely on them and say, oh, I'm having a difficult time. So.
Also, we are very happy, very excited. That also we told them, right? First we told our close friends, hey, I have some goodness today, right? Anyway, for our very close, we have something
To share.
So share. Even we don't need to very detailed things, They will come for us then. Then enemies, enemies. But we Buddhisms usually everybody looks very handsome, very beautiful, right? No one looks very ugly. Everybody wish to be very handsome. But Buddhism says people, he or she become very handsome or beautiful, they come from cause condition. And one cause is the patient. If you're a very angry person, then next level, very difficult to born to very handsome, very beautiful. Therefore, we say one cause. It doesn't really cause that. One part of cause is the patient is very handsome, very beautiful. When we're very beautiful, very handsome, we don't need to always wear makeup. Therefore, then how we do patient? The enemies. Enemies give for us patient. Right? Others, our very close friend, any problem with them, they don't give patience for us because we never get angry with them. Sometimes we know, obviously also very angry at that. Anyway,
so the enemies are the so the are the principle of or the main cause. Yeah, the main cause of patience. They're the ones in relation to which you can experience or practice patience.
Then we say, there's one story. Mama Atisha, he's an India person. He come to Tibet. That time he has one student, he's gender. Very, very short temperature person. Very, very short. Not very, very short temperature. Then Tibetans told them, how about you kick on him?
So we can serve you instead of him.
No. This is my best teacher. He said, what teacher? What he teaching for? He's very short temperature, in college.
Short temper.
Short temper. So no, he's my patient teacher. Because he show a lot of anger, then he get bored. Because he get more to our patience. Today by that dark just said the shooting it and then man so zoba ke jito the driver is shooting
On one hand. From one perspective.
Yeah, so from one perspective, the enemy is the person who can help you to give rise to patience.
Our close friend also very kind. Also we enemies also suffer with the kind. Usually we don't like the enemies, right?
Both friends and enemies have been very kind to us in those senses.
This is one part. Then we say Tanyum.
The person to whom we are indifferent.
Tanyum Shasha Simpson to Zoya, Tanida, Jenny Matakarchi on Observers, Nida, Musu. Directly and indirectly. Directly and indirectly.
Directly and indirectly.
I just came to example. We are all United States, right? Right here. We don't care much in India, Nepal, Canada. We don't have any much close friends there or enemies there. Everybody neutral.
Yeah.
But everybody eats, go to shop. They ready to do the berries, they ready to do everything. Really vegetables, they wash, very clean, they make the rice, all things. We really eat. Who made? We don't know, right? Where they come from. Hard work. Even one single rice, how much work? Do you guys saw people farming the rice? Maybe she knows.
Yeah,
India.
same too.
Very, very hard work. Very, very hard. Also the corn, we eat here corn, very delicious, right? With the high. We put the corn as grow.
To grow.
Growth, a lot of hard work. I was also did all that. But everything we have to eat, make, cut, dog, whatever we want. Clothes already made. Who made? We don't know that. Where they come from, who made. A lot of hard work. If no one make, then we don't get. Look, can't. You know, there are many ways of life. We looking for that side. Also there we can't. Then other side, Tibetan Buddhism, believe what they're talking about. You say all sentient beings, also power, how much change is.
Everyone has been our mother and father. All sentient beings have been our mothers and fathers previously.
Okay? How come it's not available? How you become my mother and father? We are same age. Okay, come. But we say limitless, keval thoma.
So, beginningless rebirth.
Keval thoma me ba ta ngaji ako so.
Yeah.
Ngaji ke gona ama go this power ma go this.
So in previous lives, sentient beings, other sentient beings have been our mothers or our fathers.
근데 keval thoma me ba kewa kanga boina kadino pujena.
So also, and we've been for many times being born from the womb, If we were born from the womb, then we need mothers.
Usually we have the four kind womb. Four, correct?
Yeah.
Egg, the womb was a protein,
From heat.
heat, then digi, ado.
Bardo, the duke, like a magical rebirth. It's kind of like in between, according to Tibetan Buddhist belief, in between death and rebirth, there's an intermediate state in which you are born in a dreamlike body that's kind of a magical emanation or something like that. Duke. And then birth from a womb. So if you were born from a womb, then you had a mother and a father.
Actually, it's a cow. So if you're a boy, or if you're a girl, or if you're a cow, it's not necessary that you'll always be born as your current state. So if you're a boy now, it's not necessary that you'll be born again as a boy. If you're a girl, it's not necessary that you'll be born as a girl. If you're a cow, it's not necessary that you'll be born again as a cow. But you can be born as many different types of things.
We are now human beings, right? Some boys, some girls, maybe next life they exchange. This life boys become girls, this girls become boys. Or we can go maybe cows, birds, maybe cats, dogs, Anyway, this is not, we have no choice. Our have no choice. This who has more power, the karma. Whatever we create the karma, then that juga is our the cost. Depends on the cost. Therefore,
So from beginningless time, from beginningless rebirths, in beginningless rebirths, we have accumulated infinite varieties of karma. So because we've had like beginningless rebirths, then we've had beginningless mothers? Is it correct? Beginningless number of mothers.
Not our moms, not all them 100%. Most moms really can't for us, right? Not all them, some kids doesn't have their moms, but most the moms really can't for us. After we know, before we don't know, they can't, they really can't for us, we don't remember. After we know it better, then check always ask. If you really mom, you have experience how you love your children. Same as our moms, or dads also, fathers also. Maybe some of the fathers, he doesn't say it, fathers, they're outside. And anyway, if parents really can't for us, same as who really parents, they have experience how they love their kids. Same as our moms, this life. Same as past life, previous life, same all the time. Even they can check the animals. Maybe, what's that, rabbit?
Rabbit?
Not rabbit. Rabbit. Who's it? Turtle.
Turtle.
Turtle maybe doesn't kill the kids. When the kids born, then he put the under the
Eggs,
eggs,
yeah.
they live. Maybe they don't much connection. Then maybe dogs. Dogs' father had no much connection with the kids. You can see doctors help to the kids grow up. Other animals most, And anyway, the same is all our life. The same thing is who didn't do them? Our parents can't send these parents. Therefore, we say, all same thing is come for us. Then we give up do something for them. Then we say, but right now we have no power. We don't know what to do them. We don't know what they like to talk about. Sometimes we talk together, they are driven the wrong way, they make angry, right? Usually most time people make each other angry, misunderstand, or try to say good words, good weather, they say wrong words. Other one people don't understand, they are not miscommunication.
Yeah, miscommunication.
Therefore, we cannot help for all the things because we don't know all the things in the world. Hard to help for them, hard to be getting better for them. Therefore, when we achieve enlightenment, then we know each single being's mind, we can read whatever they need, what kind of teaching they need. Then we can help for them. Therefore, we will first achieve enlightenment for benefit of all citizens. There's some reason.
So this is the reason for the kunlong, right? For the motivation?
Yeah,
This is the reason why we need Buddhahood.
Real practice.
Yeah, pure practice. Yeah, pure.
Perfect pure.
And motivation is very important all the time. Okay, this is a part of Buddhism view or thinking. Hello?
Yeah. Is it clear? Just a review
You got it?
to set up our motivation to think why we are here, why we are studying.
Krishna, is there an example of somebody born from an egg but without a parent?
Huh?
Is there an example of something born from an egg but without a parent?
Correct.
In a miraculous type of birth.
No, an egg.
From an egg.
From an egg without a parent.
Without parents, why you much? How come this?
I don't know. He said he doesn't know. I don't think so. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
뭐 아마 사는 액 되게 이게 타고 좀 하고 샤디 이거야 지금 아마 액 많이 좀 알았어.
Mother creates the egg, and then the egg is like sustained by heat or whatever until it hatches.
그 가시 아무 죽었는데 치고 자는 맞지. 그렇게 공항 되는 거 알았어.
Some babies are born like from they grow to a certain size inside the body of the mother and then are given birth to, and other ones are put inside the egg, and then the egg is kept warm and then they give birth that way. But there's a mother for all of them.
Okay. Okay, this is now we start to test. Call it. Come on.
We stopped. Let's see. Does anyone have it marked?
12. Okay. Page 12.
Yeah.
Page
12. So we were talking about the Kunjoma, I think, just before that, right? The 5 similarities.
There is amongst the practice of
see?
Yeah, so after the example of our mind and its mental factors,
Yeah.
one are different entities,
Yeah.
then Kawadam Bumba, there's a pillar and a pot, where is that?
Not
I think functioning thing and a base are same.
Where is that? What page are you on?
You
see it?
as well.
Second
Yeah,
paragraph.
12.
Second
The
paragraph.
order relates to the
Explain
second
this
paragraph.
clearly.
Ah, okay, so there we go. Okay, we got it. Now we found it. Second paragraph on page 12,
what they talk about.
beginning with, to explain this clearly, when the mindfulness of
Okay,
an...
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
This is the 전바다. 조선나 전반이로 말은 전바다는 전바지도 조선이로 조선 전바.
right.
배대니까
Yeah,
아니 유럽이 찾은 조선지 미지의 순간 전말했어.
okay, so...
괜히 다 못하게 말했어. 까워도 못하고 집어 말했어.
Okay. So he's talking about mindfulness down here in the second, I think it's the second sentence. The knower of the mere entity of the object form is called mind. But from the point of view of the function of acting not to forget, mindfulness. So the mind is the tosem, right? Sem, tosem didn't. Mijebati semjo. So then the mind is a main mind, whereas mindfulness is a mental event. So it's saying it is not the case that they have separate entities like a pillar and a vase. So although they have distinct name, mind and mental event, they occur simultaneously. I think that's generally what we covered just before this. They always occur simultaneously and are not different entities.
다 서로 대단 일반 긴디 이나시 안에 추에 자든지 뭐 지가서 오실 거야. 딱 말하라고 말했어. 추 하는 것만 제가 나서 이제 와서
But yeah, okay. So then the sentences following that he's reading through, the modes have been set forth in accordance with how it has been taught in Gyaltsab's Essence of the Ocean of Knowledge, an explanation of the Compendium of Knowledge, and Genudrup's Ornament of Reasoning, the Great Treatise on Knowledge. Well, that's the next line, sorry.
다들 오늘 정말 계세야 돼요. 자서지도 대나라가 예지 뭐좀 되게 잘했어. 나랑 그 샘주는 거 총대는 쇼에 총대지라고 샘 예지 뭐좀 받을 샘레스.
So then,
아니 뭐를 그 맛은 다 제주가가 까고 막고 샘고 또 카가 지내는 샘주가 됐어요.
okay, so then the second sentence there, Genudrup's Ornament of Reasoning, the Great Treatise on Valid Cognition, explains that the definition of a main mind is that which is concomitant by way of the 5 similarities with the mental factors in its retinue, and the definition of a mental factor is that which is concomitant by way of the 5 similarities with its main mind. And then Geshe glossed again what we had gone over last week, that a main mind is the primary knower of the thing, like that, for example, the mikshe.
미시가고 미시가로 조선지.
Yeah.
이거 주에다 까고 나고 가시는 됐습니다.
So then the visual consciousness is like a primary mind or a main mind, and then the awareness of the distinct colors and shapes that you'll see yellow, blue, and red, like in a visual datum, is a mental factor. So it's not like one happens and then the other one follows after it, but they come simultaneously, always together. So then when we first perceive the cup itself as an example, when we look at the cup itself, the cup, the generic, I think, shape of the cup, although the yip, 근데 yip 통나 the sem중 말이에요.
이게 제주 문화야 샘시야. 이 고고래 도도래 쌍미티 근데 샘시야. 샘시. 대신이야 가가지고. 다 시작이지. 딱 입수 볼까. 그 코랑 남아 샤바. 나 시작부터
Yeah.
대래 샘시. 대래 대가 도도래서 대래 개발하고 지나면 샘시.
Okay, so the bare appearance of the cup, so just the cup appearing to your awareness itself, is a primary mind, like a main mind, and then seeing the details, like those different modeled colors on the cup, the yellow and the blue, or the shape, the handle of the cup, those kind of things will be the mental factor.
배차샤는 나도 쳔 가고 나고 마고 세고 시고서 강가 룸바 the all white
Wet.
right 강가 룸바 같이 봐
Wet.
Wet. Okay. Just make sure.
wet
Yeah.
W-E-T
Yeah.
wet 강가 집안에서 얘나 가시 농보 가시 나고 가시 마고 강가 가지고 강가 룸바에 집안에 룸바에 수시대 강가에 와 룸바디 차상 룸바디 차상 참
Lumba color. What?
they're all wet
Which the colors?
yeah the colors all wet
Geshe, do you mean like a paint?
yeah
Or
pen
so the paint is all, they're all wet.
all
Different
wet
color paints are all wet. So
All
that's
wet.
like a common characteristic among white, red, blue, let's say yellow, for different colors of paints. But then
wet all the net but they all have different
quality of the
colors qualities
Hues. Yeah.
all different qualities
Okay.
red has a red color that not yellow no same not that's same 중 나타 same 중 먹을 다 얼마나 그러고 같이 same 중 써야 돼 그걸 same 요같이 same 도 투데 요같이 집반 이나야 same 세대 예측상 너무 셔츠 same 중이 다 단위라고 하는 same 중가
Okay. So then the generic type of thing. So I think in this example it's like a wet substance. So paints, for example, are wet substances which they share in common. They're not distinguished from each other by their wetness. Is this the idea? But then by the variety of the hues, they're separable from each other, or distinguishable as distinct entities from each other. So in this case, he was saying like the how did he say the rig? The rig means like the class of thing.
number 셔츠
Yeah.
And he
So
said the mere appearance
Yeah,
of
appearance.
the objects itself, the mere entity
mm,
of the object, the essence of the object itself is what is cognized by the main mind.
mm.
And as far as the limitless number of different characteristics of that mind is what is cognized by the mental factors.
Yeah.
그러니까 예를 들면 설명을 했어. 다 예를 들면 맞지. 제주 말아봐. 가보는 나보는 이런 다 생주라고
So
했어.
you're to know the object.
Yeah, usually. Yeah, yeah. So the awareness of the object itself, the bare awareness of the object itself is the main mind, and then the knowing of the distinct features of an object is the mental factor.
나 쪼는 거. 코라 쪼에 맞지. 아니 코라를 받아서 생주로 맞지. 이거 army mankind standard. He give the walk from that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know that.
So the word main here means like what Geshe just said. So you have the mind, which is primary or the central one. So that's like the general of the army, and then the semjung, the mental factor, is like the what do you say, soldiers in the army that he directs, to do different things.
봐. 다 투데 이제나 셈다 셈주니 다 투데 나만만 손으로 했어.
So then the mind and its mental factors have five, what do they say here?
Similarities.
Five similarities, yeah. Regarding the modes of these five similarities, there are two explanations, one from the treasury of knowledge and one from the companion of knowledge.
다들 아주 정말 나보다 나들어가는 남주 가서 우리 다 커먼트에서 커먼트 딱 강보들이 무슨
So from among the two, the explanation of treasury of knowledge is followed, and that's the first one, the tambo, sheva tambo di tumara.
땡수 야 담보는 좀 말해 너도 남주 담보는 좀 말해 봐 담보는 땡수지 땡나 말라 무슨 시대다 그때 시대
Yeah, so the first one is from the Abhidharma Kosha.
앞에서 코샤 뭐 가면
Is the most common one.
다들 말하는 땡수지
So the first one is from Abhidharma Kosha. It's the more common one, and then the first among those is the support, the similar support,
밀반수지
and the object of observation,
나바수지
aspect,
땡수지
and time,
땡수지
and substance are all similar.
다들 저기 10번 공부해야 돼. 10번 넘주 10번가 10번 공부해서 이게가 또 끌어가 10번 쭉 따는 외워서 잉잉하다 굴롱아 같은 냠도 요요하스.
Okay, so then there are many different types of awareness, like all different varieties of them, but there are these five similarities. Are these just called
엄마
five?
무슨 뜻이던데? 굴롱아.
Yeah, kundruma. The five, like, how do you say the kundro? Like,
Kundo is
universally, they're always there.
always there, so
Yeah.
concomitantly. Concomitant.
Not concomitant. Kundro means like
It's
any
going-
instance of awareness always has those.
Always going with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kundroma is like the five aspects of awareness that always occur with any awareness.
아니 잉잉아.
And then the five object ascertaining awarenesses, right?
주도 같은 요요 냠도 요요하스.
And these are always together, right? They always exist together.
이래다 다데 땡수 위바도 다도 모두 대다 수수 되어나스. 냠도스. 샘 가나 땡비 공부 샘주가 되는데 다 조선데 미시나 미시디 공부 주시마잖아. 뭐라 되는 거야. 얘네는 샘주 때랑 뭐라 돼 말해서 땡수.
Okay. So then the sentence after that, their individual meanings are as follows. Since a mental factor is supported by that sense power upon which the mind is supported, their supports are similar. So Geshe gave the example that visual sense power is based on the eye, and then the thing which it sees.
미시디 뭐라 돼 말이야.
Yeah. So the
대나지 샘주 미시 고총 샘주 때야 뭐라 돼 말이야.
I see. So then, because the vision arises in dependence upon the eye, on the faculty of the eye, then the mental factors of vision also arise in dependence on the eye. Is that correct?
No.
I think Geshe, so the eye consciousness, right?
The vision, or yeah.
No.
Vision doesn't necessarily connote the sense of the mind.
Can you have vision without being aware of it?
그래서 공부를 쳐봐. 미시디 뭐라 듣게 말아. 그러다 미시디 뭐라 때만 다시 미시 고총 좋아. 딱 건강하여 뭐라 듣게 말아. 땡치 말했어.
Yeah. So then you have again.
땡치 말 공부해서 치발했어.
Yeah. So the visual awareness arises on the basis of the eye, which is the sense faculty for vision, and always these five similarities occur with any form of like visual sensation, basically. So the support for the primary mind, which is the visual sensation, and the support for the mental factor are the same. Is that correct?
Maybe sensation is actually the mental factor. So Geshe was saying if I could just use the more old language of using the eye consciousness, which is a direct translation of Nikshiba, right? So in the same way that the eye consciousness relies on the support of the physical, of the eye, eye power, sense power, in order to arise, in the same way, then also the five concomitants, sola, right? So feeling, which is one of the mental factors that always arises with the consciousness, one of the five concomitant ones, that also relies on the same support of the eye sense power. So whatever the main mind is and whatever its mental factor is, they rely on the same support in order for it to arise.
공조 세대 너무 달라들 지금 왔어. 저바 세대 공조 세대 너무 달라들 지금 그래. 아니 이제 세대 이 심지 두마한테 그 때문에 가. 공조
Anger relies on the support of an enemy to arise, whereas compassion relies on the support of the suffering of the sentient beings. So those two main minds actually rely on different supports in order to arise. It relies on different bases, right? Upon which it relies, upon which it can rise separately. Whereas with the
미시대 아니 누구 오면 되죠. 나 시발이 나가 보면 그냥 가가지고.
And then another example of different supports would be the eye consciousness relies on the eye sense power for it to arise, whereas the nose consciousness would rely on the nose sense power to arise, and therefore they have different, not similar but different, distinct bases or supports.
So basis and support are synonyms.
Yeah, sorry, I'm using a different
that's
translated word here, but here it simply says support. So, for example, the eye consciousness and the nose consciousness would rely on different supports, right? The eye consciousness for the eye sense power, and the nose consciousness for the nose sense power. For example, with the nose consciousness, the support is what we call the nose sense power. It's not the physical external nose that we can see, but to the nose is actually an external gross form of the nose organ, and then what's called a subtle form, subtle nose sense power. It's an internal form, yeah? And they describe it as in the Abhidhamma Kosha, it's described as two very fine, like copper needles. Two that are very fine copper needles that are arranged kind of side by side, like inside the nose. Yeah. And so when the smell, the object, the smell, yeah, then comes into contact, when those fine copper needle, like inner nose sense power, when that comes into contact with the object of the smell, then from that, then the nose consciousness, the awareness, the mind, nose consciousness will then arise from that.
And Geshe said,
So same thing with the tongue consciousness. Inside the tongue, there's also a subtle form that we can also refer to as a tongue sense power, yeah? Which is shaped like a cut half moon. Yeah? And so then when that comes into contact with the object of taste of whatever we eat or drink, then from that contact, then the tongue consciousness would arise.
Otherwise, even if we put sugar here, just here, we don't move. Just here, no taste, we don't get taste. Then, the tongue, food touch this in our tongue, then they come together and say, how come can.
The roof of the mouth,
Yeah. They put together, then we get
and so then when those come into contact, then you'll get the sensation of taste.
This is Dhamma Kosha. Then
and so then in that way, in nose consciousness and the tongue consciousness, they have different supports, not the same, not similar supports. So so the nose consciousness, when it arises with this entourage of the five concomitant five similarities, and then the tongue consciousness will have its own set of entourage of mental factors that arise with it. So that's a similar support.
She's doing really good.
We're good to rotate, so
It's a good team.
Yeah. Good tact.
Okay, so then the next line, since a mental factor also observes that object which the mind observes, their object of observation are similar. So then the example, which what did you say, Miko? Right, so the eye consciousness, the form which an eye consciousness observes is the same form that the mental factor, right, the arisen from the eye consciousness observed. Yeah. So the object of observation, how does it say here?
Yeah, they share the same object of observation.
Yeah, object of observation is the same. No.
No, it's a question. Yeah.
Is the object of observation of eye consciousness and nose consciousness the same? Because the eye consciousness sees form and the nose consciousness not sees but smells. Odors. Yeah, so their objects of observation cannot be similar. So then based on the object of observation, the same object of observation, the feeling and the mental factor that arise from that have the same object of observation. So, yeah.
The aspect.
So since when a mind is generated having an aspect, for instance, blue, its mental factor is also generated in that aspect, blue. Their subjective aspects are similar. So Geshe was saying, like, whatever, for example, the eye consciousness sees a form, whatever aspects the form has, the mental event, or we are calling mental factor that arises together with that, how can I say, arises in the same aspect as that of which the main eye consciousness sees. Niga. Okay, so then the aspect in which both the aspect which the eye consciousness observes and also which the mental factor arises in are both the same. So then the similar time is, since a mind and its mental factor are simultaneous in regard to the three, production, abiding, and cessation, their times are similar. So then when eye consciousness arises, then its attendant these five things all arise at the same time.
Which
one?
actually cessation.
Gak.
Cessation, when the eye consciousness ceases.
Ceases. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the opposite of what I said.
Okay.
But that's also true too. They arise at the same time also. But he said cessation. Gak.
For example, the tendency.
Example, when we sleep, our consciousness sleep.
Okay, so when the eye consciousness ceases, then the associated feeling, what are the five kudrunga? Yeah, all of these groups of five that always go together with any awareness all cease at the same time. So when you fall asleep, can you see forms with your eye? When you're asleep?
When you're sleeping, then you won't be able to smell. Smells with your nose consciousness. All of it. When you're deep asleep, then all of your sense consciousness will cease at that moment, at that time.
All of it?
can it feel like a breeze or some movement?
I think when you're deep asleep is how she's
Deep
putting
asleep,
a
not when
caveat.
you're,
Okay.
rising out of the sleep,
Yeah.
but when you're really deep asleep, when all your gross sense consciousness have ceased at that time.
땅까지 무시 주문을 지는 호텔로 내가 땅 가봐야 되지.
So they cease at the same time.
다 대주가 다 대대래와 대 찍찍만 주말 찍만 대주세. 대대
Yeah.
무시야 대찍래 무시 고좀 대찍에서 대래와 주가.
Okay, so the similar substance, just as minds of a similar type are distinct substances, likewise mental factors such as feelings of a similar type are also distinct substances. Therefore, their substances are similar.
르트만 대래와.
Jigtumbatsi.
르트발아야 되나 나시다 시신이 르트만 말와.
Right, right. So, substances of a similar type. So, for example, the substance of for smell or the substance for taste are not of the same type.
어떤 얘기다 미시당 미시 고추 다 생주가가 미시 집발했어. 그만 미시됐어.
But I don't understand the Z part. Why is it Z then?
대래와.
Z is like each unique substances, individual substances. But
There's great debate on that point.
yeah, so why is it substance? They make it Z, Z,
대래와. 대찍찍만 집발했어. 그래서 대찍찍만 집발했어. 대래와 집발했어.
So,
대래와 또 말했어.
It's unique.
because they are distinct substances, but they agree with each other. And that's why they're considered to be similar substances. Rere means kind of social or individual, right? Rere, right?
Yeah. Each it's one
So
by
then-
one or each one.
Right. So then, for example, the substance of the eye consciousness and the substance of the mental factors, such as feeling that arises concomitantly with the eye consciousness, they have their own substances, but they agree. They agree with they match each other.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in that way, they're similar.
I mean, I think I understood generally the grammatical structure of the sentence. What I don't understand is how the sem zayur.
대래와. 나 그저 코너 소리래와 집발했어. 좀 말했어.
Rere mena dene sungi mare. For example, if there was only one, if it was exactly just one, that when you think of something, sung is something agreeing,
Yeah,
being in
I
accordance
understand.
with each other.
Yeah.
So that's why it has to be more than one. You
But I
cannot.
think the Z part is what I don't
막
understand.
대사가도 락바가 둘이 주먹 대야 돼. 말했어.
Okay, that's good.
Substance.
That's what I need to hear.
Uh,
So when he says substance, he doesn't mean like a gross substance, like the physical object, like the lid of the cup is what he touched there. Then Z rakam mena kares.
대래 락바 뒤에 그래서 가지 코란이 제주 가가 제주 내려는 남바를 내리고
DJ.
대야를 좀 봐봐. 그러나 소화대 미식보다 미신 구조 소화대 소선 말이 소선대 소화 거기 가가 임바 가가 임바지 미시 막 찍바 인자 내려고 좀
So then,
all the both different
yeah.
both that the both was eye consciousness also same together the same number 7
So
Yeah.
the five similarities
Yeah.
with the object of observation and so forth.
얘나야 거의 가가요.
I think what he's saying is like basically the term substance that's used here doesn't refer to it's not the usual usage of the term to mean a gross substance. Like we think of substance as atomically, put together objects that are gross. But he's saying here because these all have distinct character, like they're kechu.
제주 가가.
Yeah, kechu kaga. They have distinct characteristics, like defining characteristics, then they have distinct substances, where they can be called
We can
distinct substances.
divide all different, but they all same eye consciousness. They all same to what
Right,
looking for same object. They all same time,
yeah.
but we can divide different. Really, 가가.
So So the
substance, you can say. Well, I mean, I think also ze is also synonymous with functioning thing, right? So substance is synonymous with functioning thing. Anything that is a functioning thing is substantially produced or substantially established.
그들은 나는 제스처를 가 쉬운 거까지 직바에 나야 고속하가 쉬워서 되는 것도 되게 많이 봐.
So they have a harmonious type, like a similar
They're
type.
distinct, yet they are in accordance with each other. They accord with each other.
Okay, so maybe I'm not completely clear on the ze thing, like
Ze,
substance,
yeah.
but apparently substance can be used as a synonym for the
For all functioning things.
for a functioning thing. So in that case, maybe substantial in the sense that it's produced in dependence on like the eyeball or like all of the previous 4 things that came before it in the list. Kind of what he was saying, you can distinguish between like the eye sense and the nose sense all the way down the line in terms of the support, the object of observation, the aspect, and the time. Like they can be distinguished from each other, from the sense. Different sense modalities can be distinguished from each other. So in that sense, they have a different substance. But within the continuum of like vision, for example, they all share the substance of vision. So being in the class, like he said, riktumba, like a similar class or a harmonious class.
Same class. All the human is same class, right? Animals same class. Then males same class, female same class. It's not the same company. Riktumba,
Yeah.
Riktumba. 다 림트바라 때나 나 시발아요 샘주요리 미셔지나 되는 못한
Yeah. So then the nose consciousness, like giving rise to a sense of smell, is like the same class, but nose consciousness cannot give rise to visual, like sensation. They are not of the same class. They don't belong in the same class. And then they should do the ze. Yeah. So then So for that reason, they can be distinguished in terms of substance, and we can say that in the continuum of like one of the senses, they have the similar substance.
그래서 나시당 나시 고도쇼의 생주당 미신고중 데레레바 지바이나 림트바 말했어. 그가 데레레바가 지바이나 림트바 말고 데레레바.
So like the eye consciousness and the no consciousness, they also had distinct, disparate substances, right? The eye consciousness has its own substance, nose consciousness has its own substance, but those 2 types of substances don't agree with each other. They're not of the same class. Whereas with the eye consciousness, the main mind and the surrounding mental factors, like the feeling that arises at the same time with the eye consciousness, they also have different substances. The eye consciousness is of its own substance, and the feeling that arises with that is the mental factor, also is of its own substance. But those 2 substances are of the same class. They agree, they accord with each other. That of the eye consciousness and its mental factor feeling that arises with the eye consciousness.
They go together. Would you say
They go together.
mutually inclusive?
They're not mutually inclusive. Mutually inclusive has a different concomitant or concomitant, that you pronounce it different than that. So they arise at the same time. They are always together. Kunro in Tibetan, kun means all the time or completely all. Ro means going. So it's wherever the eye consciousness goes, these mental factors that arise with it always go with it, always arise together. Yes?
Is symbiosis a helpful term here?
Symbiosis? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's better to try to just make the simpler term from these, because otherwise I'm not sure the technical definition of symbiosis in English, so trying to use it for Tibetan, it gets even worse. We might confuse ourselves further.
Use all our
Consciousness.
you are here, right?
You hear with the ear consciousness.
We can eye contact, we can see.
You can see.
And maybe can you hear some smell?
Can you smell something right now?
Can you feel something to eat?
Are you eating anything that you can taste or drinking something, having any taste in your mouth?
근데 나는 다른 미식이 있으면 좋은 거 왔어. 대나야 소화 대시 생방 이라시 버리방아 들어왔어. 세주고. 하고도 말 하고도 같은 거 먹까지. 그동안에 이게가 최고 요 그냥 또 싶어 먹어는 아마 되겠어.
Yeah, so whenever you see something, for example with the eye, when you see a form, along with that comes the associated feeling, discrimination, the kundrona. Anyway, there's 5 of them, which I can't remember, so sorry. And then also the 5 similar factors and the 5 object ascertaining factors. They're all like represent different types of consciousness, but they all come in a bundle together with just the vision, seeing a form. So.
No, it's like 5 omnipresent factors.
Yeah, it's the 5
that's it.
omnipresent factors. You can see on page 16.
She found it, good.
We will go there, okay?
Yeah.
Omnipresent, that's what it should be, omnipresent.
There are feeling,
Always there.
discrimination, intention, contact, and attention. Those are
다 되어서 이마 끊기겠어. 이마 끊기 찌빠로 같이 이제 거기 그 고대 무슨 에스컬레이터인지 시간 찌빠니까 안 되면은 같이 주제가 너무 많이 이거 상고이나 그 시간 말하고 시간 가고
Sipa.
시간
Manila.
They different explanation. Yeah, they
Is it
different
an
explanation.
explanation?
But they both need same.
Okay, so they use the same between the explanation that we just covered by Vasubandhu as given the Abhidhamma treasure of knowledge and Asanga's compendium knowledge, which we're about to embark on now. They use the same similar similarities, the 5 similarities, but the explanations will be different.
아니 다 담보 앞에나 제주발 주발에 모은 주발 뒤집어 주발에서 모두 다 대치 주발을 해서 그때 무슨 말 그런 거 보면 되잖아. 그 주발을 해서 근데 뒤에 올 맞지. 아니 늦어 말하고 뭐 이랬어. 늦어 좀 따고 뭐 그래서 다 저래는 좀 뭐나 하고 말 그런 거 했어.
Yeah, so the list there you see is like pretty much the same. Similar substance, similar object of observation and subjective aspect, similar entity, which I think we didn't have in the other one.
I think that would be that might be the base, maybe basis or support.
니나 모두 내지라다.
And similar time, similar realm and level. But basically Geshe was saying that there are many ways of like asserting these 5. There
니나 모두 제다. 조선 그런 유머 있나? 이거에 세주의 유머 잘 그랬어.
ignorant.
세주 조선 그런 유머 있나? 이 노래로 유머라고 이 노래를 알아. 또 유머.
Afflicted.
Ignorance.
조선 그런 유머.
No, we normally we say affected delusions, right?
야 delusion.
Yeah,
조선 그런 delusion 있나? 이거에 세주 그런야 delusion 잘 그래. 조선 그런 개와
If it's a virtue,
virtue 어떻게 우리 세주하고 세주 때야 그렇지 잘 그래. 대고 모은 소리 되는 거야.
So the meaning of the similar entity here means that if the main mind is what is delusion
if it's
is
a
deluded,
mind,
then the mental factor is also deluded. If the main mind is virtuous, then the mental factor is also virtuous. This means the similar entity.
아니 이게 뭐라 감수받으시오. 감수받.
Yeah, kamsumba. So
감수받은 날따라 뇌세면이나 인코주 샘주양 뇌세인가. 공매세면에 인코주 샘주양 공매세인가.
yeah. Do you want to go?
so if it's in terms of the realm, similar realm and level, for example, if it's the mind that belongs in the desire realm, then also the omnipresent factors, mental factors that arise concomitant with that will also be that of the desire realm. And if it's of the Zumi,
뇌매나
and then if it's
샘주양 뇌.
if it's a main mind that belongs to the formless realm, then also the mental factors that arise with that will be that which belongs to
제
formless realm.
저거나 될 주시면 그 experience it doesn't do that kind of experience but same 주발에 되고 그랬어요.
So treasury of knowledge,
Yeah, it's not the same as the treasury of knowledge, but
but
similar.
they have to go there. Same.
yeah. 네, 그래.
무적을 해요.
예, 제단
그거 지발했으나 그러니 explanation 가서
what you understand is the same, but the explanation is different.
무적을 해요. 됐으면나 된 거주 생주 됐으면 뭐래? 주면 생면나 된 거주 생주 주면 생면 뭐래? 지발해나. 무적은 내 맞지 말해. 잠깐 맞지 마라. 그렇게 지발했어. 무적은 감수세 찍는 거. 감수가 말했어. 이나 무적을 내 친구 고고고 이랬어. 나 잠깐 맞지 않았어.
Okay, so in the treasure of knowledge, it's not enumerated as similar round level as it is with Yasanga's compendium, but in terms of understanding, is similar.
Yeah. The authors of these two different books were brothers, so maybe they just want to like mix it up because they already grew up together.
다 되고라 다 넣어라. 남을 씹어. 다 되고들 먹어도 다 빼자는 놈이 막 빼자는 놓친 거 사는 거. 아니 나도라 왕고 씹어 나야 돼. 이 씹어 주요래서. 대다 소선 주요래서.
So there are 5 senses, but there are 6 consciousness or 6.
So there are 5 sense consciousnesses, and then if you add them, if you add mental consciousness, then you get 6 main consciousness. The 5 sense consciousness and the mental consciousness together.
대라 아니 씹어 주대라 소선 쭉 따는 거지. 이거 좀 생주야.
Okay, so because there are because we have those 6 consciousness, then of course we have 6 main minds. But then the senju, the senju, nganga, but you said nganga.
So then really means so then each of those main minds will also have the 5 omnipresent or the concomitant mental factors.
아니 교오들이야. 야 배차 가시 나가야. 야 시바 쭉 원시 가로. 이까가 이치 시바지. 제가 꾸준 없이 내에 시바제. 근데 동에 다 되고 때스면서 근데 동에 가가요 그래서.
Yeah, so there's also another system which I don't know if it's actually in here, but there's another system which includes after the 5 sense consciousness and the 6 mental consciousness an afflicted mind, the nyunyi, and then the kunshi.
Non-resistable and the afflicted intellect.
Is it in there?
It's on page 15.
Page 15, okay, I see. So it's a little ahead in the text, but there's another system that includes 2 extra consciousness above those 6, making a set of 8. Yeah, this is also used by Arya Sangha, who is the author of the list we are looking at now. Yeah, so if you really want to understand in detail, like that system made by Arya Sangha, then you should look at Tsongkhapa's lecturing of the essence of eloquence, which I don't know, it has a couple of different translations in English. One is called, what's the Thurman one? Is called the essence of true eloquence or something like that. And then there's Hopkins translated, the section on Asanga is called Mind Only in Tibetan Buddhism by Jeffrey Hopkins, which translated that section. So. Yeah, so then if you want to understand the system according to Nagarjuna, then you had better look at Tsongkhapa's Gompa, the illumination of the thought, or the clear, I don't know, the English there's a translation too, but I don't know the name of it. And then Gompa and what else? Oh yeah, the great commentary on the Mula Madhyamaka Purita. There's no, yeah, so then those are those are refutation. In those exists a refutation of the two extra consciousnesses that are described by Asanga in his book. So if you're interested in how Asanga establishes them, and then how Tsongkhapa and Nagarjuna cancel out his establishment, then you can read those huge books that are really hard to understand.
이제 따로 말하니 다하기 개파 그런데 장 개파로 장 개파 장 빼다 따로 말하니 쇼한테 그러니 근데 그러니 따와 통해 따와 집어야
So then there are there's these two primary views in India between the Nagarjuna and Arya Sangha have been set forth. They're very famous for establishing the view. But just because Asanga taught the view of the mind-only school doesn't mean that that was his own view himself. 파파토메기 타워 doing your money. 파파토메기 런기 타워.
따와테 말했어. 얘나야 고라니가 샹초가 샘다 80쪽이 냐면 집발을 했어. 얘나 된지가 코니 따와카 용한테
So the view between the two systems, between Nagarjuna and Asanga regarding bodhicitta and the six perfections is exactly the same. But Asanga's view that he taught in most of his writing has the mind-only school, but that isn't his own view. But in fact, his own view in reality is the same as Nagarjuna, right? Or what did he say at the end?
I think he was saying that in terms between the two, in terms of what they taught, what they composed, in terms of the conduct, like the six professions.
No. He was saying
that's the same, but then it's the view that differs between the two, and the reason why the views are different is because for the sake of the disciples. So those who are to be tamed, because the mentalities of the disciples are different. Therefore, the views are different to accommodate the different mentalities.
different way 왔다 안에 나와서 좀 되는 출력 고로마다가 주마다
Yeah, so there's in India they say like to differentiate the types of teachings that Buddha gave, there were three distinct wheels that Buddha turned of the Dharma.
In order to accommodate the different mentalities of the disciples.
그래서 드니 고라니 그냥 따와서 가가 시고에나 다른 거라 빼자는 듯 레시니보다 아니 자신들이 따와서 납시하스.
So there's like many views that are discussed below in this text, but if you want to know in detail, you can look at Tsongkhapa's Essence of Eloquence and the great commentary on the Mula Madhyamaka Parika.
And those you can find the details on page 15.
제가 뒤걸어 놨대서 무슨 너무 때 점체 빼려는 찍는 것을 맞추고 just follow the text. We never finish. Okay. Therefore, just work on. We can talk the middle. Who's that? Joe.
So he said if we follow word by word the entire text, we'll never finish. And so he will summarize the key points and then kind of go in that way.
Okay. You think, India, Buddhism started in India, but they're two different. They different each other. Why? They're all same practice. What's that? Bodhicitta comparing the path, but they different use. Why? They different idea, different thoughts. It's because they are different students. Therefore, the different students have to first similar what they believe. Then second is slowly. Without someone ask her, someone killed the father, then he said, oh, now I kill two. Now Buddha punish me. He thought Buddha punish me. He very sad. He asked Buddha, I did very bad. I killed my father. With that time, Buddha said, oh, you terrible guy. You did your father. Then he killed by himself. It's very,
Right, so I think Geshe is referring to one of Buddha's main disciples who was a king who had killed both his mother and father and was ready to commit suicide. At the point of committing suicide, being so dejected, and Buddha, out of his compassion, went to him and then basically said, you should kill your mother and father and you should destroy the villages. But then those words, the way he said it was to then to prevent the king from killing himself. But then actually then as the king then came to came out of that state through practice and so forth, and then he explained
Yeah.
the real meaning behind.
Then really meaning then that time the king really know what is not good. Then he asked again Buddha, why you told me it's okay? No, I mean not that. He said, what's that?
The real meaning of
Real means you kill the ignorance. Then I said, oh, the different meaning, but different word, same word, different meaning. Because that time he said, oh, you terrible guy, then yes, really.
he'll be very dejected, depressed, and would have killed himself.
Did that? And Geshe Ngawang Tenley, that chuma
Geshe Ngawang Tenley. And so on the basis of thinking about
students.
According to the minds of the disciples, those are to be tamed. Duja. Duja is Ngawang and then Suju.
This is just, I'm thinking about, there was many religions right now, right? Many different kind of religions. Maybe the man, the Tsawa, Shu Yongsa, Tsawa Chichena, Chipa is, there's just somebody in that, Kajala Kushin, Kajala Yushu, Kajala Hindi, Kajala Muslim, Kajala Namba, there's just Tejina, there's just plenty of us.
So, do you want to go?
And so he said, in a similar way, Geshe thinks of how there are so many different religious traditions, like the different major religious traditions that exist right now, such as Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and Buddhism, and so forth. But then, in terms of the conduct of loving kindness and compassion and so forth, they're all the same, right? But then it's because of the different mentalities of all these the disciples, of the followers of these different religions, that they have different views that are suitable, that fit these different mentalities and different students.
Otherwise, we have just only one religion, very difficult all the people follow that, right? Because since we have different kind of foods, spicy food, sweet food, very sour food. Italy food is very sour. Chinese food is very hard. India food is hard. Thai food is always sweet. Different, because different
Taste.
different taste, different food, different taste. Therefore, different religions, very strong view religion, maybe Buddhism, you can say, go to Christian or the church, good pastor, he said, oh, I'm not comfortable there, I don't like that. If some, other religions, okay, very strong their view. Then we say, oh, go to Buddhism center, go to something. I don't like that. Just I can follow my God, Because this kind of person who has very strong faith God, Jesus, this kind of person better, Buddha is better than God, God is better than Buddha. Because he followed that, what's the course, he passed. He doesn't follow, it's a Buddhism that because he doesn't follow.
So that if
No, she's good. I think I'm trying to convince her to take my job. So
I don't think so. But Geshe was saying that if someone who has very strong faith, or for whose mentality is very suited to the advice given by, for example, by the Christian God or by Jesus, then if he follows the advice given very faithfully, and then maybe it would benefit him very much. In the same way, those who are mentally suited for Islam, for Hinduism, if they follow the advices of those gods, of those scriptural texts, then it could benefit them greatly. So in those ways, you have different religions and that suit the different mentalities of different followers.
But anyway, who has more respect to this kind of religious person? They are more benefit there, right? If some example, some school teachers, military teachers, I can respect one my teacher. And I said, oh, come here, my teacher is very good. Then you are not very respect my teacher. My teacher, he teach something that because you are not very respected, you don't think he is bad. Because for me, more benefit my teacher because I have more respect. He whatever he said, I will do that. Because him, he doesn't have respect, he doesn't listen. What he said that, no, therefore different religions, they have their own more respect and more their own benefit. Therefore in India also different views coming, reason is that more benefit for them, therefore many different
Many different views. Yeah, many different views. So even within Buddhism, there's also many different views in the same way, suited to individuals, different types of individuals. So those are taught thinking about, like, how did you put it?
So depending on the mentality of the followers of the disciples.
Okay,
So next week we're going to start the explanation of the mental factors on page 16, I think. And Geshe was saying the section, these Takotome yeah. So the section, the page 15, that long section, which kind of summarizes some difficult philosophical arguments from Tsongkhapa. We're not going to read over like word by word. You can all look by yourself. We're going to pick up on page 16, the explanation of mental factors.
You need to really understand very well your study
those books. Yeah.
So there are two different ways
Yeah.
and different disciples.
Yeah.
But you want to really clearly understand, open the other books.
Yeah.
They're more clear.
Yeah.
Here he said, and mostly she doesn't say that,
Yeah.
Actually she just said that, then we can also
Yeah. It's true. Those books are good to study.
do that.
But
Big books.
if you think this stuff is confusing, man, you don't even know.
But those are translated in English, aren't they?
They are, like changeable is, and so is Gompa Ramsa, both. Yeah.
I think they're all done.
I think even they're working on translation of the great commentary on Mulamadi Kurukulla. Maybe it's already done. Yeah, it's such a teaching. But the other two, Gompa Ramsa, I don't know, how does he call it here? Does he even mention it?
No, I don't know the names.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Essence of Eloquence by Thurman is, or the Hopkins book, Emptiness in Mind Only, in Mind Only Buddhism. Those two both are translations of life-changing books.
This is also very difficult to understand. We don't know idea what to talk about that. Very important. You know what kind of minds. Then we go level down, then read a couple of times, again talk, again, then, oh yeah, you have something, usually all the months we use that, we don't give the names. We don't recognize,
Yeah.
identify our. Okay?
So the text is an opportunity to learn how to identify all the different types of minds that we use all the time, so we can recognize them.
Usually we put tea, we put milk, tea, sugar, some India, there are some other things. We need tea that we not really, whatever they go. Our mind, we don't know. What kind of mind we use,
Yeah.
what kind of mind we follow, what kind of mind we cannot follow. We don't know.
Yeah.
It's really good text.
You guys, that's very clear.
Any other questions? Because his next question was, he has always a question.
Trying to word it so it's not too complicated. If, for example, I see somebody and then I smell something at the same time, is it possible for the nose consciousness and the eye consciousness to be arising at the same time? Or, like, one moment my mind is focusing on either the eye consciousness or the nose consciousness, like one, do I focus on one at a time? And then the other consciousnesses remain like unascertained or kind of dormant. So do they arise simultaneously in that situation, or does my mind focus on them individually.
So, I mean,
Yeah, this is your other answer. She really tried this things.
But usually you understand the question.
I think he said there. 미시당 다시 인정부터 그래서
그다음 미식이
전화
유통, 미카식이 강석이 유통, 근데 양나 나시기 진용, 근데 대각수 나 양도.
그때 열을 다
양도 유리 양나디 직치라 근데 수술하기 대비 양도 나시기.
지금 시간에 공부 다니셨어. 그러면 미시당 다시 인정돼야. 인정돼요 말. 샘칭하고 가서 나도 담을 게라. 남아시비 제대로 친구는 제도 말했어. 모두 제도 말했어.
So they're individually, they arise individually. There's the different kinds of minds cannot arise simultaneously. Like a nose consciousness and the eye consciousness cannot arise at the same time.
나도 시기만 맞춰서는 냠도 통고도 냠도 여와는 시기를 쓰는 거 말했어.
So for us, you might think that they're arising at the same time, that we're experiencing the sight and the smell simultaneously. But if we check carefully, really it's not like that. There'll be one, there'll be one after the other, or as you mentioned, well, one is active, the other, if the eye consciousness is active with the form, then the nose consciousness would be inattentive at that point, and they would alternate.
yeah, I think you put your finger there. It has to do with attention. I think that the sensory stuff, I mean, this is my own idea, but I think the sensory objects are impinging upon the organs of sense at the same time. It's possible. So like when you look at a picture, like you can look at me now and hear my voice at the same time, but attention is serial. Like to attend to one versus the other, like they can switch very rapidly between attending to what you see and what you hear, can flicker back and forth very quickly. But to do both simultaneously, I think maybe you have to
It's
be,
not possible.
Buddha or something.
나도 가서 나나만으로 시에서 나나만으로
나나만으로.
Yeah.
So this is like we talked before, in the previous text that we studied, there was one type of awareness called the nalamangevo, I forget how they translated it in there, but appearing but not ascertained. So the example is like you're completely absorbed in like watching a television show or something, and your wife is standing next to you, complaining, and then she says like, "Don't you listen to me?" And then you feel like, "Were you talking?" Like, right? So, like one thing was appearing to that awareness. There was something there, apparent to the sense, but it wasn't ascertained at all.
Right, so understood. So now appearance and then understood, not ascertained, right?
Yeah.
Just not paying attention to it.
Sometimes watch some very exciting something, movie something, some sugar in our candy for the end. We don't much feel that.
The taste.
Taste.
Yeah.
Because no, I was money was that no, I really encourage. They shows them not true.
So you cannot experience, you cannot have two consciousness like that, like the nose consciousness and the eye consciousness and the eye consciousness.
Therefore, we have to protect. For example, we go to today, buy pizza, bread, eat pizza. Anybody can see pizza? What do you think?
Can anybody see pizza?
So if you go to a pizza parlor and then you buy a slice of pizza or you buy a pound of pizza, can you see the pizza? Does anyone see the pizza?
Yes.
This is a debate. This is a topic, a subject for
It
debate.
was yes, right?
So you say yes, you see the pizza. Okay?
Then that's the second question. Is pizza is eye consciousness or tongue?
So is the pizza then object of the eye consciousness, a form? Or is it a visual sight, that is to say? Or is the pizza an object of the tongue consciousness, taste?
It's when you're looking at it, it's an object of eye consciousness.
Yeah. It's in the box.
Dude,
So are you seeing the pizza?
둘러티네 가가리. 그런 밑 감도, 얘네 수브레.
You've seen the form of the pizza?
얘네 살 감도.
Study?
Yeah,
지어져서
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
저거 그러죠.
아,
다 먹고 쓱 드니까 가라앉아서 모르잖아.
So how
다
did
먹고
it?
씩 드니 저식 유행잖아.
아,
그래서 직인이식이 많이 공부된 것이고 직인이식이 많이 공부된 것이고 이 말이니까 단지 first test가 전부 수를 와서 무슨 근데 그걸 하지 않습니다.
So he's saying, when you first see the pizza, at first it's a form, right? And then when you eat it, does it then become a taste?
For the tongue organ, yeah.
But I mean, the object pizza itself, does it change its aspect like that?
No, calling it a form or calling it a form or a taste or a smell or a sound is only in dependence on the organ that's making use of it.
you're attempting to.
So no, it depends on which organ is using it. For example, I'm sitting on the cushion, so now the cushion is a touch, right? It's impinging on my sense of touch. But when I stand up and look at it, it's a form impinging on my sight, right? So it depends on which organ is engaging it.
But you can't see the pizza.
Okay, I learned Tibet. 비싸게 이입된 미식 소식이 있어요. 비싼 미식 소식이 많이 있어요.
비싸게 이입.
So
So-
he's saying, yeah.
로드 사이. 일단 비싸 많고 비싸게 이입도 비싸 많더라고 그래.
So yeah, so then you have to. He's making this is very semantic, argument, honestly. So he's saying you don't see the pizza, you see the shape of the pizza, and you don't taste the pizza, you taste the flavor of the pizza.
It's just like
It's like that, right?
I think he said, no, you see that, you don't see the pizza, you see the shape of the pizza, but you eat the pizza. So it's a taste.
You eat the pizza.
You eat it, so it's a taste. You taste the pizza because you are, I think, so in traditional in debate, yeah, how one determines what kind of an object, which object of which sense consciousness a certain object is, how to determine that is by basically by its main function. That's what ultimately
Isn't
determines.
the function is also relative though?
No, but
Like, what if I have I
what
need to hold open
ultimately-
my door and I take a frozen pizza and wedge it under the door?
Right.
Then the function of the pizza is as a form. You know?
What's the function of that frozen pizza to be made as a doorstop to begin with? No. Right?
Yeah, but
You
is
used
the
it that
so then the
way.
function
So
depends
then
on
ultimately, what depends, like for example, ultimately what would determine when you burn an incense stick? What would ultimately determine that it
That
is
would be good to debate. Okay.
that it is something to be smelled?
I think we have
It's
to
nose
just
consciousness that
you have
determines
to-
that it is a smell, right?
Yeah.
It's an optical smell. The same way that when you eat bread, yeah, you can have the shape of the bread that can be the object of the eye consciousness, but ultimately you eat the bread and taste the bread. The ultimate determining factor, the ultimate consciousness that determines the specific functioning aspect of that object is how one would determine.
So would you have already ascertained that
Mr.
that
Mike,
function
please.
is that?
Wait,
Because- sorry.
Good debate.
Because
More fun.
actually your mind sees something, then your mental consciousness decide this is something that is meant to be eaten versus used as a door stopper. So you already kind of put another layer over that.
Well, you actually, so then
So
you have to,
process the information that the bread is really used ultimately for the taste sensor
for being eaten. Yeah.
because you processed it already.
right, so then first I would say, you said first the minds, so which mind then, I would ask you? What's that first mind that you're
The
referring
first,
to?
the first mind was the
The main
vision
mind.
mind, I guess,
Right, so
because
then-
you first see something,
Mhm.
then you associate all the mental factors that are linked to that vision, and then because of your previous association, you know that the shape that comes with that smell will taste very good in your mouth later on.
Right, so then this is where according to, for example, treasure of knowledge, and examination of the different types of mind, is that each type of mind, especially in regards to each sense consciousness, and you guys probably already studied this in the Lorig, yeah, can only know its object. So for visual consciousness, for an eye consciousness, it can only know shape and color. It cannot know anything other than shape and color. For nose consciousness, only smell. Tongue consciousness, only taste. Body consciousness, only touch.
The whole factories of that.
And then for ear consciousness, only sound, right? So can eye consciousness see the taste of the bread? No, it can only see the shape and the color of the bread.
Yeah, but then I think the argument about like the function, innate function of bread is to be eaten is somewhat spurious because it assumes that the function is innate in the thing and not by the user.
So then you have to understand from which tenet system this is coming from.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would assume that tenet system gets swept away by a better one because it's not a good argument.
So this is like how do you call it? Dudeva? Dudeva is
The Saltrantika.
Sutra.
So like what determines
the sutra form
the
is
function of the pizza? Is it the person who invented the pizza?
Well, so like the conventionality of what a pizza is.
Yeah.
Are you going to guess if you're a modern artist, you can do all types of things and bend the conventionality and one's conventional ideas about different things like that. You can make doorstops out of bits and pieces, yeah? But then when, conventionally speaking, when someone brings up the word pizza, what do you think? Do you think, oh, that's going to be my art piece on the wall?
Yeah.
Or are you going to say it's going to be my doorstop under the door? Or is it going to be my lunch?
Yeah.
So there has to be qualifying.
So it's like, it's relative, because at my work, the dough, the function of the dough is to make pizza, but at the same time, we sell that to kids to play with. And they shape it.
Oh.
And so and then we wrap it individually, and then its function becomes for the kids to play with. And then it's the same dough, but it has different
Yeah, but
functions.
wouldn't any sensible mother say, play with your food?
They request dough, they say, can we get some dough for them to play with? 'Cause they
Yeah,
don't
that's a secondary function that arose out of the primary one, didn't it? First you had the dough to make bread with. They didn't invent dough in order for kids to play with
I
it.
think now I'm in favor. Like if she puts the caveats with the explanation, the function is like a conventionally determined thing. So it means like among a particular group of people who share the convention that food is to be eaten, then when you say food or you think of food, like it means something to put in your mouth and taste and swallow and digest. But outside that group, you know, amongst the fringes or somebody like she said a modern artist or something, you know, food might be something to throw against the wall, or if you're a mouse, or for example, a giant wheel of cheese might be a home. I mean, I always think of
food.
Or a home. I mean, like, there are animals that live inside of things that we eat, and then you find like, oh my god, there's a cockroach living in here, and then you realize like, so depending on the convention for a group. So you know, I've always thought of like the chair looks like a chair for any human, sees it as something to sit on, but then like dogs or cats or something like to sit under it. It feels like a house or a shelter.
So the
you know,
so the convention for adults and people who are hungry, the dough is the food, and then for the convention of children.
well, for babies, I would assume babies only, because I think after a certain age you understand you're not supposed to be throwing your food or like.
So it is a convention for those kids to play with the dough. It's for them, and then for people who
Or maybe some small group
old
of
enough
children
that it
to.
becomes food. That's the function for them.
I think dough is probably commonly established as a food item.
I think that they are relative.
But it doesn't have an innate function. It's just a relative.
Yeah, that's not an ultimately saying like pizza is ultimately really food.
Well,
only.
again, I have to go back to the fact that this is stemming from the tenet of the Subtantikas, who believe that actually the ultimate is the functional thing and not the permanent. They see impermanent and all the synonymous terms that are, you know, all the terms are synonymous with impermanent, like functional thing, functioning thing, I believe is what it's called. Produce the product and all those things. That's the ultimate, because they have the ultimate ability to perform the function.
Yeah.
We're using Prasangika arguments against this.
Right. Right. So like the modern artist would be from the Prasangika point of view, right? Like questioning, is there an ultimately functioning thing innate in this? Well, if there's not, am I going to prove it by completely destroying your conventional thought about this pizza?
So we have to be subconscious.
No, I think there's a lot of depth in self-Trumpian though. I wouldn't sell them short. Because I think they have a very good, they probably have a good defense. Because I don't know, I don't remember, but I don't know if Saltrantika says like a specific thing has ultimately only the function that it's socially deemed to have by people. Because otherwise, how do they explain animals and stuff who see that might use it differently?
No, I mean, there's definitely the lower systems of tenets provide a basis for the upper, more subtle views, yeah? Which is a reason why even the Prasangika upper levels also accept most of the explanation of the minds and so forth is explained by the Prasangika. So I'm not saying that that we should completely, blow off the lower views at all. That's not it.
You have to understand that.
You have to be able to understand them in order to get to the subtle. Understand the subtle differences, the subtleties.
I'm hungry for pizza.
Okay, anyway. Now we talk, then we don't know. Maybe we don't know pizza. Okay, thank you. Now you talk.
Thank you.